I have two computers here. Okay, we have 2 minutes. I'll grab a glass of water.
The music is so loud.
Okay, and we have 15 people waiting, so
Nice.
that's great.
I've never seen this before. StreamYard. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's nice for streaming, yeah.
I was just telling, like, the music is so loud. It's good though.
Yeah.
Like a club.
Okay, good. So it seems we're live. We are live now. I just need to add one more thing. Okay, we can go live now. Good. Okay, here we are. Good morning, good day, good evening, everyone. Depends where you're joining from. Matej, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're already in Vancouver. You've already participated in some activities related to the conference.
Yes.
Hey,
correct.
how was it so far?
A lot of fun, actually. So right now I'm participating in this bridge program. It's called Continual Causality. So it's kind of the intersection of continual learning and causality. And both kind of frameworks or ways of thinking, paradigms, whatever you want to call it, are concerned with change, right? And an ever-changing world. Not just we, but also AI needs this. So yeah.
That's great. Amazing to hear that, and I cannot wait to join you. I'll be there on Friday, and there are some exciting posters also on Saturday about
definitely.
Yeah, so we will have a lot of places to visit during the conference. Okay, go. Let's go. Let's start with our quick overview of causality and LLMs. Let me share my screen. That will take a second.
I'll give a thumbs up.
Yeah. In the meanwhile, Matej, you can think about a question that our participants would need to answer in order to win a book. Because I would like you to come up with a question. So we have people joining with different levels of experience. Some of them are less experienced, some of them more. So we need to think about a question that could be fair for both.
So I had one immediately on my mind, right? But then again, if someone is completely outside, still there is some chance, right? I mean, there wouldn't be otherwise in this kind of causal stream. So I would have a fair one. Actually, it's on our lab website.
So don't say yet. Don't say yet.
I won't.
Don't say yet. We will keep it. We'll keep it for later. Amazing. Let's see. Great. So we're meeting here. Yeah. So we're meeting here before the workshop that we're organizing about large language models and causality, a part of the 38th annual Advancements in Artificial Intelligence conference happening in Vancouver this year. This is the entire team of organizers, as you can see. So we have Matej that you see on the screen. We have Lian Wikin. We have Amit Sharma from Microsoft, one of the original authors of DeepMind. So that's a great contribution for the community. We have Dave from TU Darmstadt, who co-authored.
Now in Eindhoven, actually, we need to correct this. So he's just recently. He's now a professor in Eindhoven. But yeah, he was working with us.
And actually, Dave is looking for PhD students in causality.
Correct.
If any of you are interested, feel free to reach out to Matej, to me. We will pass you your contact information to Dave. He has some exciting projects going on. And we have Christian Kesting, and both of them, Dave and Christian, work with Matej together, were supervisors, so your supervisors at some point, right? Yes. Co-authored a bunch of really interesting papers on causality. And we will share with you also what to expect from our guests, but just in a second. Before that, we want to give you a brief overview of the history of this entire topic of causality and LLMs, the history that inspired us to create this workshop and organize this workshop. So everything started, I think, with this paper. That was April last year, a paper by Chang Chong from Microsoft Research, Understanding Causality with Large Language Models, Feasibility and Opportunities. So that was the first, let's say, position paper that was talking about what can possibly be done with at the intersection of these two fields. That was like, this was like very, very early thoughts on this. I remember that at some point, Chang Chong also shared a short video on LinkedIn where they were using ChatGPT all together with DESI, which is like an end-to-end causal discovery and inference algorithm, in order to recover causal graphs. So that was very exciting, but well, nobody knew how to even approach those topics in more systematic ways. Matej, do you remember this paper?
This one specifically, no, actually not. And I was actually surprised to see one of my former advisors during my master's, Stefan Bauer. He's like the second author on this one. And yeah, obviously these names are familiar. For example, Nick Pawlowski, who's like the second to last on this one.
Yes, Chao Ma.
Could you maybe give me some little intuition what position they were posing?
Well, so they were talking about potential uses of large language models for causal discovery and for causal inference, also as like feature extractors, also as like partial kind of knowledge extractors. By the way, I was like laying in the bed last night and I was thinking, we are talking about, there's a very recent paper with a senior author being Joshua Bengio himself, that talks about causal discovery with large language models. I find this paper a bit controversial, but maybe in a second we'll have a chance to discuss it briefly. Anyway, I thought like we are talking about causal discovery with large language models. Shouldn't we rather talk about causal knowledge extraction with large language models? Wouldn't that be a better name? Less confusing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's multiple answers to this, right? Or thoughts at least. So knowledge, right, as a term, I think that's already, if we think of it in a kind of good old-fashioned AI kind of setting, yeah, even then, I think that might be difficult. Then again, is that a reason not to try it? No, I don't think so. Yeah, what would be maybe more interesting is to think of it as different ways of extracting some kind of information out of these models, right? And then if you have, say, discovery, then you're kind of looking at it from a structural perspective. If you're more in kind of knowledge and facts and so on, you might be less restrictive because it's not necessarily the causal thing or whatever, but it might still end up being useful in a practical sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's get back to this topic in a second later. I don't want us to go ahead of the history. So I'm going back to the history. So that was, I think, April 2023. The next paper, May 2023, Causal Reasoning and Large Language Models, Opening a New Frontier for Causality. I remember I was adding this paper to my book that I was just finishing at that time, and some results were really, really surprising. For instance, the so-called CRAS, Counterfactual Reasoning Benchmark, where GPT-4, because that was already a time when ChatGPT-4 was on the market, was available publicly, was achieving almost human level performance on this counterfactual reasoning benchmark. Of course, that was also an early paper, and so we didn't have a very good way. That's my feeling, my personal opinion, personal view on this. We didn't have very good ways to evaluate those models and really say like what's going on. Like nobody knew like what was in the training data. So how much memorization is happening there, how much like potential reasoning is going on there, and so on and so on. And this brings us to the next paper written by you.
Maybe we can jump back a second, Alex. So because I was just thinking this was my chance to redeem myself, right? Because this was the first encounter I actually had with this intersection. I remember actually seeing some of the results, the one specifically for the Tübingen data set by Amit, right? And he was posting about it. And that's actually where, for the first time, I also got in touch with Amit, because I was just responding to him on Twitter. And then, we kicked it off from there. And yeah, I think this one was really maybe the first technical one, actually, right? So if we say the previous one that we were seeing, right, as a position paper, this was certainly the one which was going for the evaluation, models becoming available, and so on.
Let me share a link with everyone to this paper as well. So if somebody's interested, they can read the paper. So you should see the link in a second in the chat on YouTube. Okay, and this brings us to the paper that you co-authored with Moritz Willig,
yes.
Dave, and Christian Kersting that we mentioned in the beginning, that we introduced in the beginning. And the paper is called "Causal Parrots: Large Language Models May Talk Causality but are not causal." And as I understand, actually I know this as a fact from you, that this title was inspired by an early paper about statistical parrots, right?
Exactly, and it's always a good thing to have a kind of metaphor, right? That's also what we're using for the workshop, because it's just it's iconic in a sense.
And Judea Pearl loved the title as well, right?
Yes.
Matej, can you share? You will do a better job than me summarizing the key insights in this paper. I really love these insights. I think they are very, very strong proposals for hypothesis, how to understand these models. What would be like 2-3 key insights that in 3 minutes we could share with everybody who joined us today?
Yes. So how I really think about it, right? So we also did this kind of evaluation aspect from a different perspective. So that's kind of confirming some of the results that Emre and the others had, but also complementary in the sense that it's broadening the picture. But really, for me, the key takeaways are on the conceptual note. So essentially, thinking about the structural causal model, right, as a modeling framework. Why can't these models be on a different level of the hierarchy, in the sense of being able to talk recursively about other models, right, being meta, so to say. So what if you have an SCM which is generating data, but that data itself contains knowledge about causal facts, about causal structure, maybe even parameters.
So just, right? Sorry to interrupt you. Just to say, the SCM stands for structural causal model, which means we have nodes, we have structural information about nodes and edges, and we know something about the functions between those edges as well.
Exactly. Also parametric. That's the function part. Exactly. So essentially, we have really something which generates everything that we care about, at least for the specific setting you're looking at. And now, in a nutshell, essentially these LLMs, right, they can perform amazingly. And we asked the question, well, from a causal perspective, how could you ever explain, right? Like, what's in the framework? And so we kind of coined these meta SCMs and essentially hypothesized that, these models, they learn, say, Wikipedia, right? And Wikipedia will contain knowledge on causal structure, something like, altitude causes temperature. You go to the mountains, it gets cold, right? And there's some physical mechanisms underlying that, but that's kind of the cause direction that we typically agree on. And these models, if there's correlation on these facts within the data in these Wikipedia articles, and the LLM is super good at picking into belief why they are able to answer correctly causally, even though they don't understand maybe in the typical sense that we think of.
Yeah, so I remember you have this very nice term, the correlations of causal facts, in the paper.
Which is a term actually Christian coined, right? To also mention, he was coming up with this high-level idea, and then Dave, Moritz, we were like, yeah, let's dig deeper into this. This seems like something, right? And I think he's right, but then again, it's a conjecture, so not proven yet.
It's not proven yet. Yes, exactly. I think this brings us to like a very interesting place, related to some things that also Judea Pearl was recently sharing on Twitter. In conversation with Jan LeCun and other people arguing that those embeddings models like JEPA and other models that LeCun is working on currently, that they can construct a word model. And Pearl asked, and I think that's a great question, how do we actually know if those models are building an internal world model and how to test for it. And I think we don't have a good answer for this today. We don't know how to do it. It brings me also to it reminds me of my recent conversation with Ajit Jalkar from the Oxford University. We're talking about the Sora, the model that was recently released about OpenAI, that produces videos, very realistically looking videos, at least compared to what we had even 1 year ago. I don't know if you remember Will Smith eating pasta. That was like the fingers were disappearing and so on and so on. Here, fingers are doing like strange stuff, right? In those videos, but they
fingers,
are much
it's always
more,
the fingers. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, much higher quality. So they look impressive, especially when you have landscapes and stuff like this, where it's very hard to see any details that would be misaligned with the overall frame. So there was a suggestion on OpenAI's webpage that Sora is building a world model. Actually, I think that's an overstatement. We probably could say though that Sora is building a local approximation of a world model. Or many local approximations of world model, which produces realistically looking images and videos. But we see from the inconsistencies in those videos that is not able to build a world model that would be like a general physics simulator, right? So in this sense, I would not say that Sora is a simulator. It's rather a soft approximation to a simulator. What would be your thoughts on this? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting take. Kind of hypothesizing that there's these local models, right? And there's some kind of way they interact to just form the bigger picture. Then again, I really feel like that's also where we came from with this work on parrots, that initially we were talking about foundation models actually, right? And then, it evolved to parrots and LLMs specifically, because that's kind of the natural interface to ask questions about, in natural language about, does X cause Y, right? But I still feel like that the correlations of causal effects idea is more general, right? That this could apply to any domain, any type of representation, right? That you have SCMs, which can generate data of other SCMs, right? And whether that's now text or whether it's now images, it doesn't really matter. Yeah? But then again, there's a whole other different, even philosophical question of what is even causality within images, right? Is there even causality in images, or do you always need video, right? And even if there's video, right, what is the nature? Is it kind of physical? Is it kind of and then there's always time in there as well, right? Which is, we model time series, right? And Jakob Runge's group, for example, in TU Berlin, they do tremendous jobs there, right, on discovering these settings and everything, applying it to climate problems. But still, the framework itself with the SCM is typically thought of as this kind of instantaneous, time-abstracted way, right? Bit different than your classical physical dynamical system.
Yeah, there are so many interesting questions there. And I must say that with time and with thinking about those video models, I started really appreciating something that you mentioned in the podcast, the episode podcast where you were my guest some time ago, about the works of Sander Beckers and the question what a causal variable actually is. And I think with time, I'm starting understanding how deep this question really is. It's an interesting question, but with time, I'm really seeing more and more really valid aspects where this question should be asked if we want to move forward. So that's great. Matej, I will stop us here. That's a very interesting discussion, but we still have some slides with the history.
Let's go.
So the next paper was this one, Passive Learning of Active Causal Strategies in Agents and Language Models by Andrew Lampinen from DeepMind, now Google DeepMind, and colleagues, including Stephanie Chan and others. A very interesting paper showing that language models can actually generalize causal structures if certain criteria are met. Those criteria are, well, I think it's very interesting. I had a conversation with Andrew on this paper. I think, the answers he came with are very interesting, but the questions that appear after these answers are even more interesting. I'm sure you know this paper. What are your thoughts on this one?
My thoughts are really, we shouldn't spoil too much, right? People should, tune in for the workshop because Andrew is actually going to be there, right?
Yes, that's true.
On a
So
serious note, right?
let's just give a foretaste, a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think it's important to not just think in the causal sense and maybe in a specific framework, right? Like the Pearlian framework that maybe we focused on Emre as well, and his co-authors, but maybe even from a cognitive science, from a physics, from a common sense perspective, right? Whatever common sense is in that moment, but in the sense that, if I throw a glass bottle off the table, then I can understand that, it fell, right? So in that kind of setting.
Yeah, great. I think it's a very interesting perspective. And Andrew, as you mentioned, Andrew will be one of our invited speakers during the workshop. The workshop is on February 27th. So if any one of you is in Vancouver and attending AAAI, come join us, say hi, ask your questions, and share your thoughts. Because this is a topic, or the whole field, the subfield of the intersection of causality and large language models is something that is far away from settled. So we need more ideas here, more discussion, and more cross-pollination between different fields. That's my deep belief here.
Couldn't agree more.
Great. Next, I'm doing this. I'm very sad that I'm doing this, but I'm cutting off a couple of very interesting papers that were on the way. One of them comes also from Cheng Chong that we've seen in the beginning. That we started with her paper, and it was a paper about the duality between attention and causal inference in foundational models. So I think that's also a very interesting paper. It also shows that those models might possibly learn causal structures, so causal strategies under certain circumstances. Again, so we have some limitation. We need to constrain the space somehow, and this is very typical of causal thinking, right? We need to constrain somehow the space to talk meaningfully about causality. So we're skipping this paper, unfortunately, but we're going to another one that I think is also very, very interesting, and this one comes from Zhijing Jing. Currently at Zurich, also co-authored by Bernhard Schürkopf, so one of the really, really big names in causality. And the paper is called Sea Ladder: Assessing Causal Reasoning in Language Models. Here we are moving from this early stage, I would say, that we started with those early stage papers where we're doing evaluations in a way that was maybe intuitive, but not very systematic. Yes. It was something great point to start with. But here, this paper shows this. It's one of those papers where the evaluation gets systematic, and so the authors build a causal engine here that generates causal situations, descriptions of causal situations with natural language, generalizes grand truths, and so on and so on. And then the models are provided with those tasks. The tasks are on different levels of the ladder of causation. So correlational questions or queries, interventional and counterfactual. And it turns out that the language models, they don't perform that well. Basically, most of them in raw setting, most of them go to the level of randomness. But there is still something we can do, and that's one of the main contributions of this paper. We can build a strategy inspired by so-called chain of thought strategy, which is called a causal chain of thought strategy. And this strategy can help models, especially those later models like GPT-4, perform much better with those tasks. Still far away from the first enthusiastic results that we've seen, but much better than just random chance. So that's one of the contributions. And the second contribution of this paper is a data set called Sea Ladder, which is a huge data set. I don't know, huge in today's, it's a relatively large data set and of causal pairs with grand truths, and so it's also made public for people who might be interested in this. in the future. Do you know this paper? Did you have a chance to read it, Matej?
Yes, of course, and not just that. Actually, I know Jijing personally, and actually most of the authors on this one, I guess. And yeah, we were actually also talking at the same venue at the Causal Data Science meeting, which was also a dedicated kind of slot for works in kind of causality / reasoning and LLMs. And yeah, from there, I also remember the enthusiastic way that Jijing was presenting these things. I totally agree that I think still Emre and everyone before have done, systematic evaluation. It's just that this one, was really coming up with a data set where you could kind of confirm that these are indeed causal quantities following the ladder of causation, as Pearl would put it, right? And going from there. So
I think that's fair to that's fair to say. We should say that Emre's evaluation is systematic, but this is super systematic, right? It really goes deep into the
I know what you're trying to say.
ladder of causation, and it's like
it's constructing the whole thing. Exactly. It's not just asking the model per se. It's doing a bit more there.
Yes, exactly. So I put a link to this paper in the chat as well. You can see it, and I'll also add the link for the Andrew Lampinen's paper
also
here
maybe
in the chat.
A tip for the audience, right? So given the fact that we're just presenting a subset, right, and there have been many works ever since, a lot of them which we also not aware of and hope to see at the workshop, for instance. But a good way is always to go into any of these papers and then check the references, right? And given that these are vastly different sets of authors, you typically cover a great range of really things where you could be safe that, probably all of these things are relevant. So.
Yes, definitely. And you're completely right. This is just a very, very small subset of the literature. I wanted to summarize this very quickly. Anyway, Matej, what can we expect during the workshop itself?
Fireworks, but seriously, I think it's going to be fun, right? Looking forward to not just the speakers, but we are actually going to have, we have accepted papers, right? It's natural for a workshop, but we can really afford the time now to actually dive into any of these, right? And hopefully everyone is there, and hopefully everyone is feeling safe and well and so on. And then I feel like you could actually have real communication that leads maybe to new works coming out of this, right? And that really gives maybe different perspectives where people get ideas of maybe giving at least a tentative answer to the question we are posing, whether, LLMs reason and how they do so, and whether it's causal. And we're trying to make this open, right? Like also with the discussions and everything, so that anyone can really just engage, because again, we're all smart people, so, we figure out things together.
So just to give you a glimpse, we'll have Judea Pearl joining us virtually for the opening remarks. We'll have Andrew Lampinen, we have Emre Kiciman from Microsoft Research as invited speakers. We'll have Mihaela van der Schaar from Cambridge University, also a great person with great contributions for the community, causal community. We'll have Guy van der Broeck, who has contributions in multiple areas like lifted inference and causality and symbolic reasoning and so on and so on. We'll have papers co-authored by people like Melanie Mitchell, for instance, from Santa Fe Institute. So that's really amazing. And
amazing
I hope that
book also, like that she wrote. Can recommend to everyone.
We'll also send a link. Matej, what's the question to win the book?
Yes, so my question would be the following. There is a quote which goes, "As X-rays are to the surgeon, graphs are for causation." And if you can say who it is that said this, I think you should win the book.
Again. I didn't get it.
So there's a quote. So someone, right? Some person. We are trying to figure out the name of a person now. That's the riddle or the question, right?
Okay. So we're looking for a name of a person.
Correct. And the hint is that the person said something. And what did the person say? The person said, "As X-rays are to the surgeon, graphs are for causation." So making this analogy that graphs are necessary for reasoning about causal models.
as X-rays are to the surgeon.
So how do we decide now? Is it the first person who gets it? Because I can see
no, because we will be resourceful, and we'll give away 5 books. We'll give away 5 books.
5.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Aristotle.
Because I think there's already some.
Okay, great. Good. So I don't know. We're waiting still. So you have 1 minute more to get your answers here in the chat. And if we want to get 5 answers that are correct, okay, we will give some more books on LinkedIn. Okay, I think we will get.
I think you're getting on your course.
Eyal has some. Okay, good. Okay, okay, guys. So everybody Matej, what was the correct answer?
So it is the Turing Awardee Judea Pearl, as many have put in the chat already, as I can see. So I guess it would be most fair to give it to the first 5, but you decide. I mean, it's your call.
Yes. No, okay, of course. We need to give it to first 5 people. So the first 5 people who gave the correct answer, please send an email with...
I'll take a screenshot. I think that's safer, no? Right? Because anyone could just say...
No, okay. I have a screenshot. I have a screenshot, but we need their email. So the first 5 people, please be honest, and send an email to hello@causalpython.io and say the giveaway, the AAAI giveaway to this address, and we'll arrange the books for 5 people, 5 first people. Matej, we are almost on time.
Yes, I have to run.
Yep. Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and see you soon. Thanks everyone for joining, and and let's stay in touch. We will be also sending to you information from the conference, from the workshop. We'll be sharing with you some insights. There will be an additional book giveaway as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and wish you a great day or a great afternoon or good night. Thank you so much.